Now, I'm of the belief that RVs are fantastic IFR platforms. Not everybody agrees with that, and I understand, but in particular when you mate them with modern avionics, they are great for this particular mission. And here I am flying the RNAV Yankee to runway 16 right into Paine Field. Just a quick note of what the setup is. You can see I'm resetting the heading, and it looks like the sync on the video is a little bit off. Sorry. But I'm setting the heading to 010 and then altitude down to 2000, and I set it into vertical speed of 500 feet per minute. Here I'm on a vector actual IFR or IMC into Paine Field on a practice approach. And so at this point I've been told I'm going to get vectors. I've already activated vectors to final. So if you're familiar with the G3X display on the left, you can see the line out there showing the final approach course into Paine Field. We'll fast forward just a bit here. Now I am just about to get my dog leg to final. So I'm getting this turn in. So I've selected the new heading on autopilot, and you can see the autopilot's turning it in for me. Am I cheating by using autopilot? Yes, absolutely. But for the purposes here, I was practicing the switchology and systems management on the autopilot. A quick note, I like to run, on my G3X, I only have a single G3X display. I like to run it in this setup as I go in on vectors around. So I run the map display on the bottom, and then as I get into final, once I'm approaching the final approach course, usually once my nav is starting to come alive on that, I'll go ahead and switch it up to full mode so I have full display. I also, not shown here, have a G5 that sits just up above to the right, and I keep that on HSI mode. Additionally, I do fly approaches pretty much exclusively in the primary nav mode on my GTN 650, which is on the upper right. And then I have an iPad that you can see displayed here, which does have essentially moving map over the approach plate as well. The amount of technology we have for these approaches now is absolutely insane, and it is completely cheating. It practically takes the sportsmanship out of approaches, but it is fantastic, and if I'm being honest, I completely love it. Okay, fast forwarding a little bit again, I am now up with Tower, getting ready to talk to them. I already got the handoff from approach. I am approaching the final approach course here, so you see I switched my display. Again, I like to have that large display. And in the background, you just saw it switch over. Now it's a forward-looking view instead of looking off the wing, so that you can see what it looks like coming down to fairly close to minimums here into 16 right into Paine Field. So just making that final turn, and you can see on the G3X on the left starting to come up on glide slope. A little movie magic, fast forwarding again, you can see the flashing GP for glide path as I'm approaching glide path, and the flashing waypoint as we cross a tippy as we start to come down on the RNAV approach. So now the system is actually riding down on the approach, and again, the G3X system with the Garmin autopilot, it's just, I mean, it's like cheating. It's so good. And here we go, down on the glide path. You can see on the G3X synthetic display, got the runway essentially visual on the display only, and then as the autopilot is flying it, it's got the velocity vector, which is that green airplane looking thing in the middle of the G3X right there on the runway. That's where we're headed. Some more movie magic. Now we're approaching 500 AGL. There it is. You can see it on the approach plate on the right, which is on the iPad, and then I like to keep an AGL display up on my G3X as well, which is on the left, but it's on the upper right of the display on the left. It's a little confusing to explain. And we're continuing down. Now you can see we're coming up on minimums, just starting to see the ground. Minimums are coming up, we're about 100 feet above minimums, still not really seeing anything, and then there it is. So at that point, I am hand flying and be an easy approach to make at that point. I'm at 90 knots. I tend to keep the speed up a little bit in the RV on an actual approach, and then I want to be in a position where I break out and get into landing configuration there. I'm usually shooting approaches into fairly long runways, so that's not an issue. But here I am accelerating, going on the missed approach, and heading back to home after this one. So there it is. That's a RNAV approach into Paine Field. Pretty much down to minimums, just a little bit above where I broke out. So again, super boring video. The boring or second most boring video I've put on the channel. If you like it, subscribe, like the video, all that stuff. But I figure only like 6 or 7 people ever watch this.